What's up, guys? Episode 7 of Mac and Smitty, and we got the memo. We got the orange on. Coach B has it on, too. Coach Batson joining us today, the absolute legend over from Clemson. And it was funny, Ike, when we logged on, it was all just like, all right, here we go.
Right.
A couple of twins, everybody wearing the orange colors. Man. But we had an awesome time talking with my guy, and truly, you know, I don't know how you feel about this. I love to hear your input because we both have fantastic fathers. So I never really say a guy was a father figure to me, but that's kind of what he was in a sense, right? Like he was such a great mentor, such a great man, not just in the weight room. Like that obviously took care of itself, and you saw the results throughout my career, the way that I got stronger, grew, and ultimately became a strength and conditioning All-American. But the growth as a man, as a husband, as a father, man, he just would instill little lessons along the way that I'm eternally grateful for. And it was really fun talking with him today.
Yeah. And, like you said, we're blessed to have very great fathers, but I think it is, very important to surround yourself with other like-minded individuals, whether it's your choice or not, but you have those role models in your life who just drop gems in you. And like you said, it's one thing growing up and you graduate high school, you're like, I'm grown, but you're not. You're not even really grown until you get out of college. But when those years in college are very crucial for development. So just to have, like you said, a great mentor, father figure. And I think sometimes we'll use that just because it's a respect thing, right? Obviously, it's not like, oh, you're my dad, but just having respect for someone who's so much older than you, just full of wisdom and just willing to give back and pour into you it's always a blessing, man. So I enjoyed this conversation too. It's been a minute since I've met Coach B, and it's probably been like 10 years since we were in school, but
it's crazy.
It was great. It was a great conversation.
It was a ton of fun. Again, the theme of all of these is we could talk for so much longer, but we want to be respectful. As you saw, Coach was like chomping at the bit. He had to go. He had his group right out there on the field. They had just finished warming up, so it was his time to shine. So it's great. It's short and sweet and a lot of fun information. Hope you guys enjoy this as you always have, and let's get right to it with Coach Batson.
The bar ain't bending. You're just pretending. Whoa!
Coach B, great to see you. We were just kidding before we hit start here that the boys are slow roasting on the outside, and they're doing their thing, getting after it, and it's the best time of year, right? It's summertime. You guys really get to be totally hands-on, and you kind of take them for a couple months and then you give them back, and hopefully they're bigger, stronger, faster. But great to see you, brother. How's summer going for you?
It's been really good. Been a good summer. Had a little break there, and now we back up rolling. So, it's kind of a fourth quarter for us. When you look at the off season, you start in January, and that's kind of get ready for us, and then you work into spring, post-spring, summer one. Now you're the fourth quarter of your off season, so just got to get them ready for camp.
What are some of y'all's big emphasis, for this fourth quarter, so to speak?
Fourth quarter, my thing was, it's all now about conditioning. And
Coach, that's why I got out. I couldn't do all that. I like to lift too much. I had to get out of there.
There's a lot of different ways to condition. I mean, it's all
that's right.
It's all really based on what your job's going to be when camp starts. So, big boys ain't running far, but they got to get down in the stance. They got to get out, and they've got to, do a lot of repetitive drill work. Tomorrow, for the offensive defensive linemen, we have like a trench kind of tip of the spear circuit, so to speak, where it's all a circuit for linemen. I mean, it's flip sleds, it's med balls, it's prowlers. I mean, it's just like a 4-quarter deal that they'll do. It takes them a good hour plus. They'll condition that way, and then the 7-on-7 guys, speed, select power speed, their training is a little bit different. So, you just start being more specific to what the demands are going to be. I can't simulate practice, but I can do everything in my power to where when they get into practice, they don't want to, the first day they panic a little bit, all of a sudden coaches are there, they're ready, and tempo's fast, and they just kind of not used to practice tempo. But that takes, 2 or 3 days, and then they're they're back up and running.
Mm-hmm. That's how it goes. Life's a circle that way, and you just got to make sure you're ready when your time comes. Coach, kind of we did an intro on the front end here, but you've been a strength coach for 40 years. You've been the head guy for, I think, 36 of those 40. You've been at Clemson almost 30 years, 3 decades. I mean, it's amazing to see that. And you've done a lot of great things. Master of strength and conditioning. You have a bunch of education, and you do such a great job of always trying to get better. But within that tenure, what are some of the just craziest changes you've seen or things that are different? And then maybe after that, things that just, it is what it is. You're going to work hard and do your thing.
Well, in a lot of ways, the old is forever new. I mean, work has not changed. You still spell it the same. Work is work, and it's just a matter of how you package it up and how you present it. And then it's what the players, do they believe, do they trust, do they feel good about what they're doing? And in terms of, being a professional, saying this is the best thing for me, you guys are giving us what we need to prepare. So, we all, as strength coaches, we have a certain way that we like to do things. We have a comfort level with how we like to do things. And we try to, stay in that box as much as we can, but understanding that we are learning more and more about human performance, and we will step outside that box and do things we feel like will be a benefit to them. But at the same time, you got to be really careful that you don't kind of drift outside of your belief system and what you believe, because all of a sudden you wake up one day and say, Lord, what happened? We used to do this 10 years ago, and we don't do it anymore. Why? Because we let ourselves kind of shift a little bit. So I just try to keep everything centered up and try to stay within the bounds that I feel like they're set for having success, and then being able to tap on the fringe, because training 125 people is a lot different than training 6 or 7 at one time.
Right.
So, we're training the masses, we're training the troops. So there's a lot of things that we may not be able to do individually for them, but we got to look at the team first. What's best for team? How are we going to prepare the team and, help them get ready? So I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Do you think, so with that information overload, so to speak, you got social media and every little thing nowadays that the players and the student athletes have access to, do you find that, you have a lot of players and athletes come to you asking more questions? It's like, hey, coach, I saw this online, and can you explain this to me? Or why don't we do certain things this way? Or, how has the access and ease of information made your job either easier or more difficult when explaining something to an athlete?
Yeah, it's definitely a lot tougher because there's so much out there. And just because you see something, I see things that look great. But I was like, how can I integrate it in to what we're doing? Because everybody's, they got a coach here or there. And I encourage them. I say, man, when we have a break, go get with you guys and work and, perfect your craft. But understand when you come back, there's just certain things we have to do that, when you get 8 hours a week to train a team, and you're kind of held to that standard of 8 hours, and they're checking, and they're checking with players. Are they going over? Are they doing what they're supposed to do down there? I can only do so much. Mm-hmm. But we do have a lot of guys that'll come in for extra work. They'll come in and want some individual work with the coach that they're assigned to. So they get some of that. But you're right. There's just so many ways of doing it. There's a lot of great ideas and some really good stuff out there. I follow people and I pick up things. I like that. We'll see if we can somehow plug it in. But we can't be everything to everybody.
Right. That's a fact.
We're a team. We got to focus on team. What's best for the team. Okay. And we're very fortunate here. We've, with Coach Sweeney, it's been really, really consistent. Our culture's been consistent. Our training's been consistent. So, I think that's big.
Yeah.
When you fall on hard times, you kind of fall to the level of the culture and the training, and we've always been able to bounce back from.
Yeah, that's a fact. There's no question about it. We'll get to that here in a bit because I think that is such a huge piece, and you are such a huge piece of that sustained success. But one thing that has always not fascinated me, but because I was a part of it, I lived in it and grew up in it, but the way you guys do Power Hour and the way that you set things to the most basic core with your freshmen or maybe guys that just need more development, scout team guys, walk-ons, etc. It is such the standard, because I've been a lot of places and I've seen a lot of different things, and the way that we do it at Clemson is the best, in my opinion. How did that kind of come about? And just year after year, I know that's one of your favorite groups to work with.
Man, it started back at Furman. It started on a Friday morning. So we would bring all the red shirts of the freshmen. There wasn't many. We didn't have like 85 maybe guys on the team. And we started a Friday morning deal. So when we came to Clemson, it's kind of the same thing. In season, Friday morning early. It was a way to get 12, 13 good weeks of training and just start back and ground zero. And then as we learned lifts and we learned things, we could throw some competitive stuff with it. And there's some great stories of the old days, but these days you can't do it. So we used to do some pretty tough stuff, and we always had a really good time with it. And guys loved it, other than the getting up part. But they always talk about it. I mean, that's the one thing they always say, man, you remember Power Hour 1988 or whatever. I don't know, but you remind me. They'll tell a story. I said, well, let's forget about it. There's no talk about it. So as time went on, I can't remember where it shifted, but I told Coach, I said, hey, let's, they don't do it. They go sit in meetings and they sit in the back and they're not really doing much. So let's just, when the team meeting's over, let's take them to the weight room. At home games, we'll go 5 days a week. Bring them down every day for an hour, work with them, teach them everything about the program. And then on away games, we'll just go Monday through Thursday. And then as we got later into the season, when, 10, 11 games, we'd start to cut back on their days, and because they were getting really heavy. And somewhere along the way, that's where they got the strongest. I mean, some guys never overcame that because they started playing and they get hurt and they bounce back from injury. So Power Hour kind of built a solid foundation from which to build upon. So that's just how we did it. And we've had a lot of fun with it. And now that, they go down to like 105, I don't know how it's going to work. Everybody may have to be in meetings. So, I don't know if we'll be able to do that or not. We'll see. That answer your question on it?
Yeah.
With like you said, with the starting back in the 80s at Furman, how have you seen the guys kind of adjust to, like you said, besides the waking up part being difficult, do they still have that drive and that hunger to know that they get that 1 hour to just, put the work in?
Yeah, I think, guys that love training, guys that love lifting, that's just like, that's everything. If you don't like training, you don't like to be pushed, then it's not very comfortable. So, but we try to make it, it's tough, it's hard, but we try to have fun with it. And, we understand that, you build so much mental toughness because you're coming down, you're training for an hour, and then we'll break, and they get a snack, they go put on their gear, and then they go right back through the weight room to the indoor, and then they go to practice for another, 2.5 hours. Mm-hmm. Just the toughness part of having to train, short break, and then go service the varsity for, because they don't get rest. I mean, some of these guys have to do about every reps. It does, builds a little character, builds some toughness, builds memories.
Right, absolutely.
I actually talked to a gentleman the other day from Furman that was just retired. I had him. He was a special forces guy, did military. Now he's on the backside doing some other stuff and with that. And he was talking about it. I was like, oh, man. I remember you as a player. Now you've done a whole career.
Right.
You finished a career. And now we're sitting here and you're retired and doing some other things, and we're still talking about Power Hours.
That's right.
That's
right.
awesome.
Well, truly, I mean, it truly is one of the best things, because it sucks and you're going through it together, and we all are. And there's something to that adversity that, you guys just come together and you make it happen. And I thought, Coach, one of the most fascinating things, I think it may have happened before and certainly it happens after, but one thing that I just remember throughout my career was guys that maybe still weren't playing, that weren't freshmen, that they would even come back to take advantage of. They didn't have to be there, but they would, because they wanted to get better. They wanted to be around you guys. And I just really commended them on that, but also your staff and yourself, because you made the environment of, you have to get better to be here, come down and do it. And you presented people with that opportunity.
Well, they felt like it was their responsibility to come back and lead the next generation, I guess,
right,
to lead. And some of them were juniors, some were seniors, and they're like, this guy's crazy, but they just loved it. And I empowered them. I mean, hey, you kind of the coach here, you're the captain. They just took so much pride in it. And one, they loved training, they loved lifting, they liked being in that environment. And I don't know, they were just giving back. I guess
That's
they just
right.
had a servant's heart. And, those are some special guys.
Yeah. That's when you make it in your program, when you have guys that do that willingly. And you kind of touched on the culture. And again, you haven't been there for 3 decades at Clemson, which is amazing to see that sustainability and the amount of success that you guys have had, that we have had. But most recently, where it just took off. And I think of 2015 on, and going to national championships, winning national championships, winning ACC championships. What in your mind was the in the weight room specifically, but then you can go big picture if you'd like. What was the key to that? What was the golden ticket to such the great success that Clemson has experienced for going on 2 decades now?
I think it's obviously the history of Clemson football is pretty phenomenal. Obviously we've hit some little snags along the way, but I think just the type of people that you recruited, and in Coach Swinney's system, man, every this, everybody's been pushed up, and so you decide you want to kind of go against that grain, you don't last long. So I think that constant squeezing from Coach Swinney and from staff, and just that constant pressure and pushing, and not just athletically, but as a man, as a person, and growing. I think it's, I think about that, and then I think about the best teams I ever were a part of. It's like I didn't have to do a whole lot. It was player-led, and not just in word, but guys actually led the team. They just took charge, and if there was problems with the team, they'd come to me and talk about it, but they took charge of it. And those are the best teams I ever was a part of, where players just, there was no, these guys were the dudes, offense, defense, team, and that's how they pressed and pushed. And when they all kind of made up their mind, it didn't matter. Mm-hmm. We were going forward, and we
right.
were just locked in, and we never had, with those teams, we never really had a losing day. Mm-hmm. We would win every day, and they were easy to coach.
And so, how do you cultivate that? Because that seems like across the country, right? That would be the secret. But you guys were able to harness it, and we harnessed it and got it there. But then you talk about some other teams and things like that. Is it giving opportunity of empowerment? Is it just some guys are built that way when they get there? Can you kind of see it early?
We didn't have a ton of change. We were like, guys were brought in as a class. Now some may leave, but we never brought a lot of people beyond that. It was never a lot of transfers in. It was like the dudes, like they were all recruited together, and you were part of a class, and so and then they just kind of stayed together. And then another group comes in behind them, and they just keep, kind of coming together, moving forward. And the guys that were ahead of them taught them, okay, this is Clemson, this is how we do things. Not that we're perfect every day, but this is how we do it. This is what's expected. This is how we're going to work. This is how we're going to train, blah, 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 on and on. So I think that consistency and not having a ton of change, and a lot of people coming from the outside in, we were more inside out, so to speak. So that's what I see. And it's just belief. I think just selling, and not just selling it in word, be an example of, hey man, this is who we are. We work, and we're going to take pride in our work, and we're going to push you, You may not like it some days, but hey, this is just, it's what it takes right here. It's what we got to do. And we were consistent in our methodology, so to speak, of that.
It sounds like, with obviously the culture of Clemson, and if you're getting recruited, you kind of know what to expect once you get there. But of course, expectations are one thing versus reality when you actually arrive to a place. Do you think nowadays, with the availability of the transfer portal, once guys get to Clemson and then they kind of learn this is Clemson, this is how we do things, you kind of get with the program, being such a successful program though, do you find that a lot of guys accept that and still kind of stick and grind, or do you have those few who are kind of just like, this isn't what I wanted after all, let me just jump ship?
Yeah, we've had a few, but I mean, the ones that kind of jumped were like, they just kind of saw the writing on the wall, excuse me, or just felt like, they gave it a shot, gave it a chance, and, hey, I want to play. I can drop down or go somewhere else and play more. But they just kind of realized that, I can't speak for them, but that's kind of what I see. And I think guys give it a shot, they give it a chance, but these dudes are rolling in, man. It's a, next guy up kind of thing. And they kind of, the guy ahead of them either makes it or you bypass them, and then that guy gets a little disgruntled and they move. So, but I think we brought in 3 this year, and they were great fits. I mean, they were phenomenal people, phenomenal players, and they just fit right in. It's like they'd been here 3 or 4 years. So coaches did an amazing job. The guys bring in.
And I think that speaks to the culture too, though, because it is set to where if you're not ready, just go somewhere else, right? Like if you can't handle this, but a lot of guys want to. Nobody, I don't think, wants to leave Clemson. It's such a special place, and the way the people are treated and things are set up. It is truly unique, and I think that's a really cool piece of what we do here. Coach, I can't help but smile because I'm looking at your office and I'm looking at all the memories, but I'm also thinking of that beautiful weight room that's right out in front of you. Still to this day, I mean, it's getting older by the day, right? That facility has been around, and you guys did such a great job. But even still, it's the best in the conference. It's one of the best in the entire country. When you were designing that thing and you were thinking about all of that of flow and equipment, what you wanted, what all came to mind in regards to making that thing timeless?
I had a group of interns and knew some new interns, and I asked them one day, I said, how do you think this weight room got here? They're like, oh, I don't, this hammer, they just put it in. I said, so I went in my office, brought out a book about this thick, laid it on the conference table. I said, boys, this is 2 years. It took 2 years just to design it, organize it, get it ready. And I said, then you got to start purchasing and buying, and then they're cutting budgets. So you're taking things out, putting things in. And I said, it basically just started on a piece of paper. Here's my thoughts. Here's the square footage. They come back up. They just cut 3,000 square feet. Okay. So you go through this process, and this is the thing I told them. I said, when you're designing and building, it's about the 3rd, 4th one I've done. When you're designing and building a weight room, nothing else stops. Recruiting don't stop. Workouts don't stop. Games keep coming. Still got administrative responsibilities. I said, all the work to build a facility like this is done at night when nobody's around, or it's done on the weekends. And I said, it's like that for 2 years. Okay. It's not like you just stop and build it and it's great. No, you got to keep going. You got to keep winning. You got to keep training. It's a long process, but hey, man, it's satisfying for sure.
What were some of the must-have pieces of equipment with this new facility?
Power racks and iron. That was
daggone right, baby.
Somebody said that's the largest dumbbell area I've ever seen in my life. And I think Iron Grip said this is the most weight that they've ever put in a room. I mean, I must come on had, so it's custom. But everything's, you play with your feet on the ground, so you gotta think about, power stuff. You gotta think about all the different variations of squatting and all the different variations of pressing and what bars you're going to use. It's like you're kind of like a doctor. You're like, I'll pull this bar down today and check it up. And then you got to have some, auxiliary equipment to help with some single joint stuff. I mean, it's and we've taken some things out, put some things in, but when you design a room, it's kind of like what do you want?
Mm-hmm.
The next guy that comes in may want to do something totally different, may like a different flow. Some guys like power blocks in a rack. That's great. I'm all for it. I just like moving guys. I like for guys to stay in that rack and work, and get over to some dumbbells. I don't know. What do you think, Mac? 30 yards? I don't know how long it is. Pretty big.
It's a lot bigger than 30 yards. It's an impressive building.
People just like, man, where do you get all them dumbbells? I said, well, if you look on the top, there's kettlebells all the way down.
That's right. You got those too.
Then we got fat bells on top. So we got every kind of bells that you can have. So.
Everything you could. Coach, what was that like transitioning to that? And to be, because, back when we were in the West End Zone, you could do offense, defense, but even that was tight. To be able to train 130 guys at one time, what is that like? And how many times, I guess, have you actually done that?
Oh, not much. In the summer on Fridays, we might have a team. You probably remember the old agility circuits would do. And then we might come in for a little lift. And then we kind of celebrated. And, we all went off for the weekend. The West End Zone, man, it was a tough deal now. You're working about four groups a day. Nobody wanted to be in the 3 o'clock group.
No.
So I don't know if it'd be hard to train the team now over there with everything we have access to. Up until 7-8 years ago, I'd never had an indoor attached to a weight room. So you think about it, the majority of my career was, out there at 29 degrees, out there running around in Death Valley. And our hallway there was our indoor. And then we would be inside. You know how it was but we made it work.
You made it work. You found a way. A way.
We'd find a hill somewhere.
That's right. Beside a graveyard. And we all just kind of look over thinking, man, I'm about to crawl into one of those.
Caught a flight over there. So.
That's right.
But we've done some good stuff. And we always just made it work. We never made excuses for it. We never complained. We just said, hey. And then, we were just blessed with facilities. And Coach was able to push things forward. And so I'm very grateful for that. So, somebody's going to get a phenomenal facility. It's just the program's in great shape. Okay, it's in a great place, and I'm excited. What we've been able to do here, and looking forward to the next 3 weeks of training. Looking forward to camp. Looking forward to the season, and just see how we do. We have an opportunity. And let's just see how we handle it.
Is there anything in particular that you're looking forward to, year 30 at Clemson compared to maybe 10 years ago? I mean, you've seen a lot over the years, but is there anything that stands out specifically going into this season?
I don't look at it. I just look at it, it's another season. It's another great opportunity. You got a bunch of great guys you've been in the foxhole with. It's been working and pushing, and just like everybody around the country. I mean, I told them Monday, I said, Monday was a special day for all college football players across the country because they're all coming off break. This is their first day back. Okay. Now who's going to approach it with a winning mindset and a dominating these next 3.5 weeks that we have? And, as I said, we're all starting back in the same place. Okay. It's just a matter of our intent. Okay, and how we gonna handle that? How are we gonna, just kind of, you can't lumber back into it. I mean, we got to go. We can't. This is go time. So we've had a little break. Now we got to roll. So, but I'm, I just kind of look at it as another season. I don't want to count days or anything like that. But
right.
I just want to enjoy it and, hope we can play a long time. That's
right.
the goal.
That's right.
That's right. Have a long, grueling one is always a way to do it. That's right.
Right.
That's right. That's what you look forward to. Coach, we keep mentioning the longevity, the hours, the seconds, the days, weeks, years that you've put in. And I think you wouldn't be able to do that at the success and the level that you could without your faith and the thing that you lean on. And, you developed hundreds and thousands of great football players, but you've also developed thousands of great men, great husbands, great fathers, and great believers and followers of Christ. How, I guess, throughout your career, did you just find those moments and those times to, maybe just peel back the football piece of it and really dive into to the manhood part?
Yeah, I just try to be really consistent in my walk, and I was listening to a Charles Stanley sermon this morning, and he was really talking about, how people get a hardened heart, how Christians slowly drift away from their faith and they become hardened to it. And it was just a reminder, man, don't get a hardened heart. Just be consistent in your faith. Have a routine, daily, to where you're gonna, spend time with Jesus every day. Spend some time in the Word. And days get long and crowded, and you got to find a place for it. And then just, really leaning into the Holy Spirit. We got a helper. Okay, we're not in it alone, and just relying on the Holy Spirit to kind of give you wisdom and guidance. And not perfect by any means. Make mistakes, say things I shouldn't say, do things I shouldn't do. But I do try to be really, really consistent in my faith. And hopefully, it's one thing to preach a sermon. It's another thing to try to live a sermon. I've tried to live it out. And I got a wonderful wife who, now it's going to be 39 years or so of marriage. And
come on.
She's a strong believer. She's kept the whole family grounded in our faith. She hasn't let any of us drift too far. So there's nothing like a praying wife and a praying mother. My dad died when I was about 16. So my mom had, I was 16, had a sister 14, had a sister who's only 3 months old. So my mother taught us to really trust and rely on the Lord to take care of us, because she had to. And she's a strong lady, in her faith. And so her example to me and to my sisters and to her children and grandchildren is just phenomenal. So, just walking it out, man. Got to feed it.
Yep.
Got to let them roots run deep and produce good fruit.
That's no question. And you do that each and every day. And Coach, I just want to say thank you. I know I tell you all the time, but I love you so much. The example you were for me, the coach you were for me, the mentor and friend, you're truly the best. Thank you for coming on here with us. And man, we're so excited for this season. Can't wait to see what the Tigers do.
Yes, I appreciate that. Anything else?
That's it, brother.
I'm looking at him over here right by the moat. A little humidity. Smells like somebody's barbecuing. So
you got to get out there. You got to get out there and be the master chef. Put it on there, and we'll be there soon. We'll be there soon to check it out.
Well, I appreciate it, guys.
Thank you.
I hope hope we get to see you soon, and always welcome for a workout.
Yeah,
we'll leave the light on for you. How about that?
We appreciate it.